This is William Garvey, Editor-in-Chief of Business and Commercial Aviation magazine. Today we're speaking with James Albright, a retired U.S. Air Force pilot who now flies a corporate G550 and is webmaster of Code7700.com, an internet site popular with business aviation pilots around the world. First of all, what caused you to create it?
Well, from day one in Air Force pilot training, I write things down. Someone tells me something I don't know, I write it down, and I keep it. And I'm kind of a pack rat for knowledge. So I've amassed volumes of stuff, some of it good, some of it not so good. And then when I became a civilian, I had spent about 4 years in the staff in the Air Force, so I had a break in flying. And then TAG Aviation hired me to fly the Challenger 604 for a compact computer out of Houston, Texas. So I had to relearn some things I had forgotten, and the notes came in very handy. And then the Air Force airplanes was before the days of GPS and TCAS and all this other good stuff, so I had some catching up to do. So I started writing down again. And then after a while, people would come to me and say, "What do you do about X?" And then I would tell them. I started fielding questions on the phone about what do you do about X, and soon I found myself faxing and emailing my notes. And every now and then someone would borrow one of the volumes, and I was happy to do that, but every now and then the volume wouldn't come back. So I started transposing so I'd have multiple volumes of the same thing. Obviously, that's not very efficient. I just started typing them and emailing them. I'm not exactly sure when I started this. It may have been about 6 years ago. I started a website based on a pithy saying that I heard from a safety officer a while back. He said, known procedures produce known outcomes. I thought, wow, that's brilliant. It's true, and it's brilliant. So I started a website called Known Procedures. Soon I was getting emails from people asking me to expand on one thing or another, and I really enjoy doing that. It benefits me from a selfish standpoint because I don't have an aeronautical engineering background. I have an industrial engineering background, and every now and then I'll make some kind of mistake. I'll get emails from all over the world. One of the mistakes was I used tangent when I should have used arctangent, and that's not something that I recognized immediately. I have to sit down, plug in some numbers, and I understand it, but it takes me a while. This was from someone who wasn't a pilot. I think he worked at some engineering firm. He was trying to come up with something dealing with aviation. And he very politely emailed me and says, "Hey, I think you mean arctangent here." And I looked at it, and sure enough, he was right. So the nice thing is if you click on Ask Eddie or Contact Eddie in the bottom of Code 7700, I will get that email, and I will answer it. I would say 9 out of 10 is someone asking for something, and I'm happy to give that. If I'll direct them to where on the website it is, or if it's not on the website, I'll put it on the website. And then 1 time out of 10, it's someone saying, "Hey, did you consider such and such?" And that benefits me greatly. So for a selfish reason, that's been very, very good for me.
I've read a number of articles that you've done and put up on the site as well, and my compliments to you. They're very well written. Can you tell me how much of a writing training courses have you taken?
Well, I'm afraid I've taken almost none at all. The engineering course, at least back in 1974, was fairly rigorous, and I went on a 4-year ROTC scholarship, so Air Force ROTC automatically assumed some of the credits. So what I was left was 3 credits that I could choose on my own. And I chose a history class. I can't remember what the third one was, but the second one was creative writing. And so for 4 years of college, I had 1 class in English. I don't know that it did me any good. It must have, I suppose.
I'd say it served you very well, sir.
Well, thank you. But part of it is I think I have an inner storyteller in me. I like relaying things. I like instructing. I really do. In a lot of my Air Force squadrons, except for the tanker squadron, they're all VIP squadrons. So you basically took the airplane with someone important on the airplane, and you'd go around the world and come back. Very atypical Air Force mission. But basically, as what we called an aircraft commander, what the civilians would call a captain, they gave you the airplane, the crew, the passengers, and they turned you loose. And you didn't have a lot of support out there, so you had to be very creative. And all of these squadrons expected out of their captains a report on what happened, what you learned, what other people can learn from what you learned. You know, it's just a trip report. Most guys would turn in a 1-page summary of took off at X, landed at such and such, and then if there were any problems, they would detail what they didn't mind detailing, obviously trying to protect their careers. What I like to do was write stories that were engaging and and funny, and probably one of the best compliments I've gotten was on one of those missions. It was a regular mission, and when the following year came by, the VIP in question had a copy of the report, and he says, "I noticed the last time we did this trip, there was a problem with parts. The airplane broke in Tokyo, and he wanted to know what we've done to fix that." some of these trip reports have lived on beyond my stay in those squadrons. I've always taken every opportunity I could to write, obviously never professionally, and anything other than as a side part of my job as a pilot.
We've been speaking with James Albright, webmaster of Code7700.com. This is William Garvey, editor-in-chief of Business and Commercial Aviation magazine. Thanks for listening.